What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to Lay's Hoops. Today's video, we're going to be discussing the two games we saw on this first day of the NBA play-in, and needless to say, it did not disappoint. We saw the Miami Heat host the Atlanta Hawks at home, and then we saw the Minnesota Timberwolves go on the road in Crypto Arena and face off against the Los Angeles Lakers. There was two winners tonight, obviously, and two losers. We're going to get into why those were winners and why those were losers, but before we do, guys, I just want to say we are on the road to 2,000 subscribers, so if you're new here and want to support the channel, please be sure to consider hitting that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into this 7:30 game, the first game we saw tonight, the Atlanta Hawks versus the Miami Heat. First and foremost, pretty much every podcast or poll or anything I saw today that asked the question, who's going to win this game, the Heat or the Hawks, I would say it was about an 80 to 20% split in favor of the Miami Heat. And obviously they go out and lose tonight 116 to 105 at home, might I add. And going into this game, the Miami Heat were 3-1 in the regular season versus the Hawks this year. And I thought at first that it was pretty interesting to note that the Miami Heat were the 7th best defensive team in the NBA, while the Hawks are the 22nd best defensive team in the NBA. And then the Hawks are the 9th best offensive team in the NBA, and the Miami Heat are the 25th best offensive team in the NBA. And I think what you guys really need to realize when looking back at this game is just the difference that a head coach can make, because obviously they go out and lose 3-1 in the regular season. Their offensive rating was kind of okay, but their defensive rating was not the greatest. They were under head coach Nate McMillan, and then you bring in someone like Quinn Snyder, who is an absolute stud, a veteran coach, someone who's had a lot of regular season success in the NBA. I just want to point the attention to the 2020 and 2021 season that the Utah Jazz had when Quinn Snyder was coaching. They were 3rd and 4th in offensive and defensive rating in 2020, and then in 2021 they were 1st and 9th in offensive rating. And I think we saw that deteriorate the Miami Heat's game plan tonight. It was very, very unpredictable what the Hawks were going to do tonight. We saw 7 different Atlanta Hawks in double digits tonight, including every single player off the bench and 3 out of the 5 of the starters. And one of the starters who did not have double-digit points was Clint Capella, but man, he went absolutely insane on the glass tonight. He finished with 21 rebounds. And while we're on the topic of rebounds, how about we bring up the fact that the Atlanta Hawks out-rebounded the Heat 63 to 39 and 22 to 6 on the offensive rebounds alone. This was just a really interesting game. I think Atlanta did an amazing job of capitalizing on shot making, especially in that fourth quarter. For a little bit in the third quarter, it looked like Miami was possibly going to come back. You know, they went on about a 25 to 4 run at the end of the second, beginning of the third quarter. But then Trae Young and Clint Capella, Trae Young and Onyeka Okongwu, whether it was DeJounte Murray throwing the lobs, it did not matter. The interior defense, the Miami Heat could not oppose good interior defense on the lobs, and it was absolutely like a masterclass to watch, if you will. Like I said, you had Collins, you had Capella, you had Onyeka Okongwu, you had Jalen Johnson, and it was just great to watch that Atlanta Hawks team not rely so heavy on the 3-ball. Bojan Bogdanovic was cooking in the first quarter. He kind of slowed down in the second half, but he was doing really great in that first half all in all. I think it was just really, really great to see this Atlanta Hawks kind of win. I feel like a lot of us forget how great Trae Young is and this Atlanta Hawks team is when they're in that underdog role. I mean, the Eastern Conference Finals run they made a couple years ago was in that underdog role, as they were the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals before losing to that Bucks team. But on the Heat side of things, I just think there wasn't enough happening on the offensive side of the ball. And it's easy to look at the score and say that, but you only had 4 people in double-digit points tonight, and Kyle Lowry was bailing you guys out this entire game off the bench. He finished with 33 points off the bench tonight, which is higher than anyone obviously scored. Jimmy Butler was incredibly inefficient tonight. Tyler Hero was incredibly inefficient from downtown. Max Strus continued to stay inefficient from downtown. Kevin Love barely played any minutes tonight. It just seemed like Eric Spoelstra was pretty flustered and frustrated with what his team was providing, and I guess I don't don't blame him. But this game, oddly enough, kind of encapsulates the entire season the Miami Heat have had, just a day late and a dollar short. It seems like this just really, unfortunately, might be the end of this core. I see some people saying that this Heat team could, push the Celtics if they were the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference, but they can't even beat this Hawks team. And I know, I'm just going to say it again because I said it in my last video, even though I got a lot of flack for it. Anything can happen in a basketball game, especially when it's just a one-game series like this. I think tonight the biggest weakness for the Miami Heat was Bam Adebayo. He played the most minutes, and out of all starters, he had the least amount of points, and he got absolutely destroyed on the rebounds by Clint Capella. And the way that the Hawks play drop coverage, and Bam Adebayo has a really good elbow jumper, I was really expecting Bam to take and make a lot more of those. And I also expected Jimmy to be hunting and successing on Trae Young in the pick and rolls, but I only really saw Tyler Hero going for that. And it was just a really interesting game tonight. I think if you're the Miami Heat, it's a rough one, but now you just have to focus on what's next. And for the Atlanta Hawks, enjoy game planning against that Boston Celtics team. It's going to be a rough first round for you guys, but who knows? Anything can happen. As for the Lakers and the Timberwolves, what a long and interesting game it was between the Lakers and Timberwolves. First and foremost, on the Timberwolves side of things, even though you guys lost this game and quite possibly played some of the worst stretches of basketball I've ever seen in my life in the fourth quarter and in overtime, including a 12-point fourth quarter performance where 3 out of the 12 of those points came from Mike Conley free throws with literally 0 seconds left to go in regulation, as Anthony Davis fouled Mike Conley and is the whole reason this game even went into overtime. I do want to give my flowers to Karl-Anthony Towns and Mike Conley. Karl-Anthony Towns was an absolute game changer in tonight's game. He shot about 80% from the field and 50% from 3 with a box plus minus of nearly 20 points. He had 24 points, 5 assists, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks tonight. He was playing absolutely amazing, and if he didn't get into foul trouble so early, I feel like this game's trajectory would have been completely different. It's really hard to get into a mode or, a synergy with your team when your superstar or all-star big or player in general is having to come in and then foul, and then he goes out for 4 minutes, then he comes back in for a couple of minutes. It was just, I think Chris Finch did an amazing job as this Minnesota Timberwolves team was shorthanded with the lack of Naz Reid. Obviously, you don't have Jaden McDaniels after he punched and broke his hand. That's potentially an all-NBA defender. And then you don't have Rudy Gobert as he's out with that suspension. I think tonight for the Timberwolves, it was just a really great game. You guys hit the ground running. The Lakers looked like they were, going into this game thinking they were going to beat you by 50. And it really showed in the first couple of quarters. Mike Conley, I don't know if, obviously you guys have this, next game you're going to play against the winner of the 9 and 10 matchup between the Pelicans and Thunder. I don't know if this is going to be his last stint with the Timberwolves. He's coming up on a contract extension, but Mike Conley is just such a phenomenal player. I can't stretch this enough. At 35 years old, he was just looking absolutely brilliant out there tonight. He had 20 points on only 9 shots going into that fourth quarter tonight. He was absolutely killing the Lakers tonight. I loved the minutes that Nickeil Alexander-Walker gave off the bench tonight. I think Anthony Edwards struggled I know Anthony Edwards struggled tremendously bad tonight as he shot 0 for 9 from 3 and 3 for 17 from the field and didn't even crack double-digit points tonight. But I do think that he was having a shoulder injury that he was just trying to play through. I think this team has so many dogs on it, including Taurean Prince. If Taurean Prince made that three-pointer to tie it in overtime 105-105 after the Mike Conley steal on the inbound, I would have about been filled with so many mixed emotions because I don't know if I could have stayed up any longer to watch the end of this game. All in all, the Timberwolves, you guys did a great job tonight, and good luck to you in your next game. You guys are an incredibly fun team to watch, and I wish you had your potential all-defensive team wing to maybe stick on Bron or Anthony Davis. As for the Lakers, there's not too much I want to say other than I hope this was a lesson learned. I hope that this humbled you guys a little bit and kind of showed you that you guys cannot just act like you're better than everyone. After all, you are the 7th seed. I think the Grizzlies matchup was great for you guys. Tonight, LeBron James and Anthony Davis looked absolutely amazing as they combined for over half of the Lakers' points. Brown had 30, AD had 24. Anthony was looking amazing on the glass, amazing on defense. This is exactly the type of Anthony Davis I was talking about in my video with the X factors saying that he's going, or the people that have the most playoff pressure. Anthony Davis was on that list, and I was saying that this is the type of big and dominant Anthony Davis we need to see if they want any chance of succeeding. D'Angelo Russell and Troy Brown Jr. kind of were very lackluster efficiency-wise. I like that D'Lo was still facilitating the ball, but he did not see that many minutes. We saw a lot of Dennis Schroeder tonight, even though it looked like he was injured with a left ankle sprain halfway through that game. He just ran it off, and he finished with 21 big points tonight for the Lakers. I think this Lakers team would be so scary if Rui Hachimura actually had a corner three ball. I just saw so many wide open looks from the corner where it looks like he's a little bit hesitant. He'd rather give you a rip through or a jab and go and just shoot a mid-range. But I digress. There's not really much I want to say about the Lakers. I'm surprised Austin Reeves didn't do that much tonight. I mean, he took a lot of shots, but he was just really inefficient. I just think this is a great win for the Lakers. Just a great second half, I should say. The first half was pretty god-awful. But the last thing I want to say is it was really funny to watch Coach Darvin Ham stick Rui Hachimura and then Wayne Gabriel and then Troy Brown Jr. on Karl-Anthony Towns on multiple possessions. I'm not sure how long he's going to have a job in Los Angeles, but if Mo Bamba continues to deteriorate on the bench and I have to watch stuff like that happen and all other executives and or viewers of the game have to watch that happen, I don't think it's going to be very long. But what do you guys think? How crazy were these games? I mean, that Lakers game, it had a Dennis Schroeder pretty much buzzer beater, and then Mike Conley sent it into overtime. I could talk about these games all night, but it's time for me to go to bed as it's about to be 1:10 in the morning when I'm editing this. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, and blessed. Peace.